The day that I was hurt is crystal clear. It's as clear as this moment right now. I know exactly what happened. I know exactly how I felt. I can close my eyes and be under that water right now. I was in the Grand Canyon, and I was diving off of a waterfall, and I had asked somebody, and they said, you know, it's safe, it's deep enough. We dove off it last time. But they didn't know that El Nino had made the water level a lot lower. I did a swan dive in, I hit the bottom, and a shock of electricity. Boom. My whole body just shut off. And I said, I can't move, I can't breathe. I held on for as long as I could. I had no air in my lungs. And I started freaking out, and it's like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. I floated up to a girl that was by the edge of the water, and she saw me. Unfortunately, a doctor was there on vacation. He came over and took over the resuscitation and brought me back, and a whole team of people, complete strangers, went into saving my life. All I could hear was the sound of the respirator. This slow push, hush, push, hush. And those nights were the tough nights, trying to live, trying to breathe. I was fortunate because I had Still Me, an audio tape by Christopher Reeve of him talking. And at night, I would just put that on. And that, I mean, saved me.
The face of spinal cord injury research was really changed dramatically in the mid-90s as a consequence of the injury to Christopher Reeve. He took on the charge of really bringing forward the images of someone with a spinal cord injury to the world. And I think as a consequence of that, people really began to understand what happens to someone with a spinal cord injury, and really began to understand that it is incredibly important. Even a very small improvement in function could make an immense difference, especially for somebody like Christopher Reeve. Toby suffered an injury to his spinal cord at cervical level 5, C5. And that's the part of the neck right about in here. That injury disconnects all of the pathways that communicate between the brain and the spinal cord. So there's a loss of ability to move and a loss of ability to feel below the level of the injury. So this is the kind of injury that really is a very devastating injury in terms of the things that we need to do every day just to live. Everything that we do, everything is really affected by an injury at that level.
I was a singer. I went from being a singer to not being able to speak. I went from being a gymnast to not being able to move. From being on the tops of mountains to being in the intensive care unit. Now, as a dependent person, I'm only as reliable as the people that I surround myself with. I've got 3 different caregivers that are really great, like young, fun, nice people who are reliable.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Yeah. It is beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, will you sit me up before we do breakfast? Okay. Dee is one of my caregivers. She comes in during the week, basically Monday through Friday. She comes in each morning, and it takes about 3 hours for her to come in. She'll help sit me up and get me breakfast and coffee and all the normal stuff everybody does. Actually, can I hold it? I think I can hold it now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you can actually. I'll try.
Yeah,
Let me know. Yeah, good?
yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yes.
Obviously, with a spinal cord injury, your body is affected. Not just the spinal cord. I mean, it affects everything. I went from being someone who grew up as a gymnast, as a swimmer, as an athlete, to somebody that could not move. My identity was, I'll do a backflip off your car. I'll run faster than you through the woods. To make that transition, to go from a body that can take you anywhere to a wheelchair or to a bed that limits you is a huge, huge transition. And I don't think anyone can be prepared for it.
All right, breakfast ready.
Oh.
Is that coffee?
Mm-hmm.
You're done? No. Here.
No, I'm good. You can set it. You can bring it closer.
Let me put this in there first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yay! I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Good, enjoy.
All right, thank you. To go from complete independence to almost total dependence, you realize very quickly what you took for granted. I'm very lucky. I've been fortunate to have an amazing family. My parents are, they knew that we're gonna have to fight, and we're all gonna pitch in and do whatever needs to be done. I mean, you're on the front line, Toby, but you're not alone. Every injury, every disability is as unique as a snowflake. So my journey as a C5 quadriplegic is totally different from any other C5 quadriplegic. We all have different abilities and disabilities. For me, I have sensation from the chest up. But then there's other spots that I have sensation. In the middle of my back, on the side of my hip, the back of my leg, my right foot. Yeah. Going to the bathroom, I use a shower chair and help roll me into the shower. I can do a lot of the shower on my own, and then she'll help me get out and get safely transferred into the bed and dressed. No, it's good. Unless the spinal cord has been completely cut, there's always hope. There's always potential that you might regain something. We'll do it on the count of 3. That I'll regain function someday.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
The Reeve-Irvine Research Center was established to be a center for research on spinal cord injury and other diseases and disorders that affect the spinal cord. And the center focuses mainly on animal models of spinal cord injury. We try to understand the basic processes that go on and also the possible mechanisms of regeneration and repair. Now, regenerative medicine these days is thought most often to involve human embryonic stem cells. And in fact, several of the scientists here at our center do focus on stem cell research. The great excitement this year, of course, has been the announcement of the first ever clinical trial for human embryonic stem cells for spinal cord injury. That trial is based on research by Hans Kierstedt here at our center, and we're obviously very excited and proud that this is moving forward. So it'll be a couple of years before we know really what's going on. But there are other aspects of regenerative medicine as well. And for example, our lab really focuses on the regeneration of the nerve connections between the brain and the spinal cord. The restoration of those pathways that control function. An injury the size of a grape at the level of the neck in the cervical region can cause complete paralysis of all of the body below that level of the injury, even though the spinal cord below the injury is fine. All you would have to do, for example, to restore function is actually regenerate those connections. And that's what we're really trying to do. Just last year, we discovered a way to actually make connections regenerate. The really neat thing is that it's the connections of the corticospinal tract, the pathway that actually controls our ability to move. We did this using genetically modified mice, but these are proof of concept experiments that point the way towards a therapy that it could actually be used in people. If we could do that in Toby, the way we've done it in mice, there's every reason to believe that we could restore some function to hit the muscles of his hands.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Good, bro. How about you, man?
Doing all right. Good to see you. If you don't mind just helping me push up into the van here. So I have another chair I'm just gonna be bringing down and donating here.
Okay.
Yeah, how you doing? How you doing? So we are on the way. I've got a chair with me that I'm gonna donate, and we'll be over to Wheels for Humanity, I don't know, probably 10 minutes. Since I've been hurt, stem cell research has obviously created an amazing opportunity for people like myself who are hoping that this research is someday going to give me back my independence. You know, I didn't say, hey, it's going to make me walk again. I'm very fortunate that there are people out there in this world that are working hard on the science. What science do you have that can bring my hands back? It would make such an impact on my life to be able to have the ability to use my arms, to be able to use my hands more.
Spinal cord injury research depends critically on animal models. The problem with computer models is they have to model something. You have to understand the process. We don't know about how repair processes actually contribute to function. And function is what it's all about. Cells in a dish don't function in the way that we care about. They don't walk, they don't move their hands, they don't move their bladders, they don't move their bowels. So these tests in animals are hugely important. Really what it involves is that the animals are anesthetized, the spinal cord is opened up, and we create a very small injury of the type that a person would suffer in a naturally occurring spinal cord injury. The kinds of functional loss that we study are very minor. We're talking about the animal's inability to use one hand, for example, but the animal is able to do everything else that it normally does in daily life. So the experiments involve testing in a way that we can actually measure function and actually measure improvements of function that come about as a consequence of our treatment. One of the tests that we use, we paint the animal's feet. What this measures is the animal's ability to actually place their digits on the floor as they walk. The paint task measures how far the toes are spread out. It measures how long the stride length is. So these are ways that we can actually measure the quality of walking. Rats and mice are advantageous for studies, especially of hand and arm function, because if you've ever watched a mouse or a rat use their hands, they use them in ways that are very similar to the way people use their hands. One of the tests, for example, involves the animals reaching out and grasping a bar. Other tests involve the animals reaching out and grasping a food pellet and bringing it to their mouths. All of these functions measure the kinds of things that are very important for people as well.
But overall, this is going to
What we're seeing in terms of hand function is improvement of strength and an improvement of the ability to actually use the hands in functionally meaningful ways.
I thought music was gone for me. I thought that was a dream that had passed. And I didn't see anybody in a wheelchair doing music.
Okay. Look towards the light. Good.
I was very fortunate because I met a community of people who were similar to myself, who had persevered through the obstacle, made it to the other end, and were doing things with their lives.
I'm a photographer and I happen to have a spinal cord injury, and I've been a wheelchair user for 32 years. Because your hands don't work, it makes it a more difficult journey, but I've experienced more and met more incredibly interesting people being disabled and being a photographer than I think I probably would have if I was able-bodied, so I'm quite cool with it.
I love the story of Ray Charles. I love the story of Stevie Wonder because those guys are musicians first, and their disability is 2 or 3 or 4 things down the line. It's nice to be around guys that get it, that get my situation, and encourage me to not fall into the trap. And the trap is, I'm disabled. And I'm not disabled. I'm an artist. I'm a singer who happens to use a wheelchair. For me to see friends of mine doing it and being successful, it lets me know that it's possible.
Are you wearing your girlfriend's shoes?
My friends are a big part of my life, and having these guys as roommates and bandmates and buddies is it's a precious gift.
Double team.
We've been here for about a year, and we've got a recording studio. We go in there and rehearse and drive the neighbors crazy.
There you go.
All right.
I have a slight idea of it in my head.
Nick Wood sent me the set list. I know we kind of figured it out, but we're going to start with Fatal.
Are you planning on sending it to everybody else?
I'm going to forward it to you as we speak. It's Fatal Lullaby, and then Cultural Vulture,
That's a good one.
and then Sweet 68. I think
Yeah,
it's
are you
good.
gonna take that eye makeup off from your photo
I'm
shoot?
going to leave it
No,
on.
you should leave it on.
I asked Joe, and he said it's West Hollywood. I should leave the eye makeup on.
Oh.
I said
Holy
it's
man.
West Hollywood. You should take the eye makeup off.
Yeah, and you're in there that needs to go in there?
I believe so.
First, put your pants on, buddy.
Put him on.
Chris,
You can't do the show without your pants.
we need your pants for the show.
Unfortunately.
I don't know, maybe it'll
Here we
turn
go.
people
We're off
on.
to the Viper Room.
Maybe we'll get more turn-ons having Chris with his pants off.
Not these days. It's
About
about
whether they're
it's about the shock value. We need some shock value.
We need way more shock value, I feel like.
I mean,
If we're gonna make it.
I know you're in a wheelchair and I'll tell you, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, it
well,
is
you know,
not shocking enough
It's
at
not as unique as you'd think.
all. No.
Now,
You-
if I just didn't wear my pants to the show.
Maybe
That's
if
the
you
ticket.
didn't wear your pants.
That's the ticket.
Out of all of us, though, you're the one who could probably get away with it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's just Toby. He just doesn't wear his pants. It's so don't.
No,
just
they're-
don't look at him.
They're lead singers in a wheelchair, but the weird part is
I'm good. I already ate.
He called me up a couple days later and he said, you know, this little kid was talking to his mom on the way back from the show and said to his mom, like, you know, this is a kid with cerebral palsy, and he said to his mom, like, Mom, I didn't know that I could be a rock star. And the mom said, honey, you can be whatever you want to be. What's up, y'all? Hi, sugar.
Yay! You look good. Yay! Right on. How are you?
Hey.
How you doing? Yay!
Here, I kiss your hand since I can't reach you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Barb.
Let's make some noise. Give it up for City Zen.